Time and time again, the key problem facing these businesses now is that customer acquisition costs have gone absolutely nuts. What we know to be true and what's been well documented is that as the follower count increases, the trust between the follower and the influencer decreases. There is so much untapped potential of customers who love brands, who have the ability to sort of help these brands grow in an authentic, genuine way. You need to have this sort of micro-influencer approach. You sort of have to have a broader approach and build a small army because they have a smaller following, but a way higher engagement. Where you might have had one, you will now have 15 or 20. And the benefit of working with these micro-influencers is that they are significantly easier to work with. If you can nudge them within 48 hours of them making a purchase, saying, hey, just so you made a purchase from us, love your content, happy to completely refund your recent order if you're willing to join our ambassador theme and post about us. Something like that goes so well. Brands in 2025 should be viewing their customer base as their most valuable asset.
Welcome to the Afluencer Podcast. We're talking influencer marketing and evangelists today, turning everyday shoppers into those referral sources for our brands. To talk about this, we've got Luke Yarnton. He is the co-founder of the Rave. It's a platform designed to revolutionize influencer marketing, turning these everyday shoppers into brand evangelists of sorts. So Luke, welcome, and I'd love to get kicked off here. Tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got into marketing in general, and then influencer marketing and affiliate marketing, and then what led you to start the Rave.
Hey, Britt, great to be on the pod today. So I think the quick background to this story is that the year's 2018, I'm young, I'm fresh out of college. I studied marketing and management at the University of Auckland in New Zealand, originally from New Zealand, hence the funny accent. And I sort of joined this really exciting financial technology company as a generalist. I was sort of the first non-technical hire, and we were operating in a similar space to Klarna and Affirm. Is probably the most sort of close comparison in the US. We ended up doing really well in New Zealand, got taken around the world, moved to London soon after to help open an office there. And then once I got to London, we were acquired by a big Australian financial technology company called Zip, who then, given my experience opening the platform in London, they moved me to New York, where out of New York I was responsible for opening up all of these new markets, be that Canada, Singapore, Mexico. So I had a lot of really interesting experience speaking to a bunch of e-commerce merchants the world over, and in a way that you're sort of getting into the nuts and bolts of how their businesses tick and what are the key problems facing them. And time again, the key problem facing these businesses now is that customer acquisition costs have gone absolutely nuts in recent years, back on the back of IDFA changes and a bunch of other sort of systemic things going on. So brands are super desperate for new and innovative ways to acquire a new customer. So me and my co-founder, who was in the same team as me, launching this Zip financial technology platform around the world, said, hold on, based on what we've learned in this fintech, and based on what we know from these merchants that seem to be having the same problem the world over, we've got some pretty fun ideas around how we could possibly solve this in a new way that's beneficial to both brands and the customers that love those brands.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you've worked in your journey here with over 150 brands. What did you see for them in terms of pain points, getting in front of new customers, customer acquisition? What was leading to that increase in cost that you referred to?
Yeah, so I think that the key piece that most brands will refer to that was what changed the pricing model. And if we rewind the clock 5 to 7 years, it used to be that you could pay Facebook $1.50, and for that $1.50, you're guaranteed to get one new customer that comes through. But then there were these IDFA changes that happened a couple of years ago. And what that meant that a business's ability to track a customer, or for an advertising platform to track a customer around the internet, became infinitely more difficult. So the targeting was significantly less specific. As such, when you're being less specific and less targeted, you have to spend more money to get the same results. So they were saying, look, our revenue model is completely broken now, where I was paying $2.50, for example, to acquire a new customer. That CAC is creeping up to $7.50 now. So we have to change the entire model by which that this e-commerce business operates.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great insight. What then was it with the tracking then being kind of outlawed then because going through, like you said, like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, Google AdWords and Facebook, and you could kind of set these all up so they were creepy and following somebody around, right?
Exactly.
They'd land on your site, and if they didn't convert or get an email, well, it wasn't over yet. You're still going to retarget and stuff. So did that just become
sure.
where it was, you just couldn't do that anymore? You couldn't follow them around until you couldn't bludgeon them with 7 or 8 touch points until they eventually converted?
Yeah, the level of granularity you could get down to when it came to targeting a customer was effectively gone. So you had to have a much more broad approach. And like you mentioned, the ability to follow them around and see the other touch points that exist against that customer profile or the device ID. And I realize I'm probably getting into like the nuts and bolts of it. Should keep it high level, but the clever performance marketer lost a lot of their technical ability to win over a specific customer.
Yeah, gotcha. Is that, were you already in the affiliate marketing space when that started going down, or did that lead you into the affiliate referral type of space platform?
Yeah, so I haven't had a lot of experience before this. I hadn't had a lot of experience in the affiliate and the referral space. My only experience was that through COVID time, I tried my hand at being a micro influencer. I used to make coffee videos on TikTok. Those ones, maybe you've seen them, where there's like I'm sipping a delicious cup of Mexican coffee here now as we speak.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So that would be a TikTok 5 years ago.
But what I would have done is I had this really nice vintage espresso machine. You have the espresso pouring out of the spout set to some Lord of the Rings soundtrack or something like that. And I ended up getting like a small following, no more than 5,000 followers. So definitely at that nano end of the spectrum. And I became the sort of key knowledge base for anything coffee related for my peer group and for the people who followed me on TikTok and a bunch of people who reacted to whatever I was posting on Reddit. And I recognized that I probably generated more than $15,000 worth of sales for brands that I love, but none of those brands that I love had any interest in partnering with me, offering me any sort of ambassadorial programs because I had such a small following. So that was sort of combining that experience with the knowledge I had around the pain points that merchants are seeing the world over. That's sort of what spurred this idea around there is so much untapped potential of customers who love brands, who have the ability to sort of help these brands grow in an authentic, genuine way, in a way that doesn't conform with the pre-existing ideas of this is what influencer marketing should look like. There's sort of this new wave of influencer marketing coming through that I think is what we're trying to capitalize on.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and we're kind of seeing the same thing on our end. Where do you think brands are at in terms of that? Because we do see, hey, we want scale, we want influencers with 1 million followers, like you're saying, or 100,000 followers, and there's an education process where that's not necessarily who's going to give the best ROI. Like you said, if an influencer is really in love with the brand and their followers are all in love with their content, there's a natural alignment there. So even if that person has 10,000 followers, it could be a good fit. But that all said, it's kind of up to the brands to be there from a marketing maturity standpoint, right? As they're looking at these platforms. So where, in your sense, where do you think they're at in terms of that? Are they just starting to figure out, hey, micro and nano influencers have value?
Yeah, so I think there's been a trend away from these big macro influencers for a while now. There's always going to be some faster movers and some slower movers in that space. The original methodologies, I'm sure you and your audience will know, will be, I just want to get as big an influencer as possible that has a super high reach to post about us on their Instagram, a classic post, and then purely based on their awareness, we as a brand should expect to see some sort of benefit, whether that's sort of just being attached to them from a brand perspective or some additional visits to the site and some transactions. But what we know to be true and what's been well documented in the marketing literature today is that as the follower count increases, the trust between the follower and the influencer decreases. So what we're seeing time and time again is that where trust is highest is in that macro, in that micro to nano space. So someone with less than 50,000 followers seems to be the one who has the highest amount of trust. And this is also at a time when traditional advertising, super low trust. Traditional media, super low trust. So for brands to be able to capitalize on a trustful, sort of authentic recommendation from someone, you need to have this sort of micro-influencer approach. But that comes with some difficulties for brands, where typically it would be a one-and-done sort of approach, where I could say, look, here's one influencer that broadly aligns with what we're trying to do as a brand, and I can do that, and then it's done, and then I can move on to the next thing. Whereas if you are managing on the long tail, is what we call it, of influencers, sort of the micro and the nano, you sort of have to have a broader approach and build a small army, because they have a smaller following but a way higher engagement. Where you might have had one, you will now have 15 or 20. And the benefit of working with these micro influencers, and the smaller influencers, I'm sure you know as well, Brett, is that they are significantly easier to work with. There's no levels of management that sit between you and the influencer. And these are often part-timers that do it purely just for the love of the game, or the love of the specific niche that they operate in. So their ability to activate them and to get them moving significantly easier. But you need to have the right tool set in place to make sure that you don't burn an aggressive amount of hours trying to like juggle these different influencer engagements.
Yeah, so to get that process started, Luke, what do you recommend in terms of influencer outreach? Because from your experience as an influencer, difficult to reach the brands. I know from the brand side, it's difficult often for them to reach out to the influencers because they go to Instagram and they're DMing the influencers cold.
Exactly.
And they get shut down that way also, right? Because it looks spammy from the influencer standpoint, and the brands don't understand the amount of inbound offers these influencers are getting, and they're not really able to sort in terms of like what's legit, what's not. So when you're working with a brand, like what do you recommend in terms of reaching out to these micro nanos?
So what we're testing out at the moment is what we're considering like a massive unfair advantage to a business. And what we have the ability to do is we've built a platform that allows us to analyze customer profiles that are passing through a checkout on any given day. The same platform is integrated into 4 or 5 of the biggest influencer platforms that exist in the world that canvas somewhere between 15 and 20 million creator profiles. So what we're doing is we're saying, are any of the people who've passed through the checkout today, who've made a purchase, spent their own hard-earned cash, do they also exist in an influencer platform? And if they do they meet the needs of your business? Are they of the right size? And is the type of content that they produce in line with what you're sending out? And then what we can do off the back of that is trigger some automatic notifications that go out from your brand, be that email, be that automated Instagram DM, to that creator to activate them and see if they want to join your ambassador army. There needs to be like a soft, non-aggressive, light invite. But the reason that's an unfair advantage, or we perceive it to be an unfair advantage for a brand, is because that person has already opened multiple emails from you. They've made a purchase, they've gone through that process, so they're looking for emails from your brand. So you can kind of like sneak in a little bit slyly and a little bit sort of get in there where previously you might have been filtered out by their email tool or been easily overlooked because it might have been a brand that they've never heard of before. But what we've got here is genuine customers who spent their own hard-earned cash on your brand. You're top of mind for them. If you can nudge them within 48 hours of them making a purchase, saying, hey, just so you made a purchase from us, love your content, happy to completely refund your recent order if you're willing to join our ambassador team and post about us. Something like that goes so well. And in terms of hours invested versus outcomes, this is what we're seeing as being like the highest ROI influencer marketing channel for brands at the moment.
And in terms of setting this up, Luke, so you have a Shopify app for the Rave. Is this for Shopify stores only, or do you have other platforms that you support?
No, so we can do it across the majority of stores. The Shopify, by going through Shopify, it allows brands to plug into our automated referral and affiliate technology as well, which is just an aggressively simple refer someone, get a Venmo payment approach. But the actual technology itself integrates into Klaviyo and a bunch of other similar email tools that are used for email sending. We build the customer profile that we're looking for within those email tools and then build the lists and trigger that automatically off the back of it.
And are you guys handling the affiliate tracking also? So given maybe the links or the discount codes that's showing hey, this affiliate new ambassador is referring these customers? Okay. Look,
that's entirely up for the brand though. Like what we do know is that affiliate technology is very sticky technology. No one wants to have multiple different affiliate programs running in parallel. So it's built in a way that we can easily plug it into your existing stack, or if you don't have something currently available, we'd suggest you use ours for the easy sort of like parallel integration. But that's entirely up to a brand's preference. There's so many different ways you can attack the actual sort of affiliate sharing side of things. So it's entirely up to sort of what works best for the brand and what they're trying to achieve.
Excellent. And we'll get the link to the Rave in the show notes below as this goes live, so people can see that and go through and see your Shopify app and normal website. I'll let you go on this one, Luke. If you could give one piece of advice to brands that are trying to improve their influencer marketing, referral marketing, affiliate marketing, all this stuff, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think we enter into a really interesting time now when it comes to customer-led growth, where with the advent of AI, a lot of brands are going down the most inauthentic route possible with these false avatars and false UGC approaches to promoting their brand. I think that's absolutely the wrong way. Brands in 2025 should be viewing their customer base as their most valuable asset and approaching this with the idea of, I want to get as many authentic user stories and customer stories out there, and treating it like a performance channel with the same assumptions you make around what am I willing to have as a customer acquisition cost, and be honest and transparent with your customers around the fact that they have a really unique ability to help you grow, and the growth should be in a way that's mutually beneficial. I think that's the way you win in 2025.
Yeah, that's a great insight. And I think those trends, we've seen those in place for the last few years, where brands were already getting more and more faceless, right? Where everything was these automated faceless kind of follow-ups, and you didn't know who was behind anything. And there were very rarely would you actually see a human. And now you've got all this AI generated stuff, so you don't know who's writing something or who's generating the content. It all kind of looks the same, right?
100%. So I think like people will seek out more and more these human experiences and high trust experiences. And I think people are going to have very little time or appetite for what appears to be an AI-based sort of user content story.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, great insights on trust and what they can do for your marketing. So Luke Yarnton with the Rave, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate you coming on the pod.
Thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, it's been great chatting with you. Thanks again, Luke.